Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to strap in, do some tech, and try to figure out an issue that's been plaguing me for a while in this Chevelle pinion angle.
Oh my God.
We're going to get super technical here. I'm going to share with you all my knowledge that I learned on the University of YouTube and digging on the internet. So we got the rear end, drive shaft, transmission, engine transmission. Usually in most vehicles, they're set up to where your engine transmission is just above the plane, above the height of the rear end. Pretty much every car I've ever worked on has been that way. So that automatically puts this at a downward angle somewhere. Depending on if it's a factory or a swap, it's anywhere 1 to 5 degrees down here. It's a beautiful down arrow, which means your driveline then goes down also to the rear end because it's lower than that. So your drive shaft angle will be negative, and then equal and opposite, as everybody's always taught, you make your pinion angle come up, the opposite of whatever this one's down, and then everything should be great. And normally that's true. If this is 2, let's say this is 3, I'd probably put this somewhere in the range of maybe 1 down degree. So then you'd put this up 3 degrees, right? Just to equal and opposite those. So then your working angles are 2 and 2, because when it's going downhill, these subtract from each other, and equal and opposite in a drive shaft working angle of 2 on either side, or however that math works out, I believe these subtract from each other. This angle minus this angle is the working angle of this U-joint. Same for this U-joint. Math and things. But I've been applying this principle to the Chevelle. One thing with the Chevelle is if your engine is this way, which for me that's a downward 2 degrees, and the drive shaft comes out, goes to the rear end. We'll make these lines because I'm goofy. I've gone everywhere from, I have adjustable upper control arms here. I've gone everywhere from -3 degrees to +3 degrees. So I've made this line go this way, all the way down to this way. So this whole range of motion here. And I do math, but I also like to use that Tremec app because it does colors, and I'm just a dumb Missouri kid. So it doesn't go green for any of these. But what I noticed is my drive shaft is at a positive angle, which means my lines are going up like this. And there's one, when you dig through all the crap on the interwebs, there's one tidbit of truth and one kernel morsel of knowledge that pops out, that when this is positive, you have to add these angles. I feel like I'm back in 3rd grade math class. So if I have a +1 on my driveline angle, but I'm at a -2, well, these 2 angles get added. So now I have a 3 degree working angle on that U-joint. And that's not good for the U-joint. I can go anywhere in here like I've been doing, and nothing greens out on the little Tremec app, and none of the math makes sense. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't figure it out. I've spent the last literally 5 days under this car, adjusting it a 1/16 this way, dropping it, rolling it, loading the transmission, tightening the lock nuts, taking it for a drive, coming back. That didn't work. That's about 30-45 minutes of work for a 1/16 of an inch. And then I jack it back up, put it on car skates, go under there, measure it, move it a 1/16 of an inch, tighten down the lock nuts, drop it down, settle the suspension, drive it again, check it. 1/16 of an inch. That way the time adds up. So what I'm trying to say is, don't be like me and waste your friggin' life away trying to figure this part out. Your angles add. So how do we fix that and make it so either A, the angles don't add, or B, that when they do add, they're in an acceptable place? Well, I can bring this up. If that's at 1, I can bring this to 0, and the add would make it a 1 degree angle. But when you're dealing with a car you've already built for some specifics, and you're not going to either, you could lift the cross member up, or you could move the floor up. I'm not moving my floor. I got a TKX because it's supposed to be not needing to cut floors. So moving the floor is not an option. I may be able to sneak this cross member up until I'm like jamming on here and hammer some clearance in there or something to get this angle smaller. But I think what really needs to happen is this drive shaft needs to not be at a positive, because with this rear end height being above the engine and transmission height center line, right, center line here, center line here. These are your heights so you can measure off the ground or whatnot. So how am I going to do that? Well, the one thing in common with all these, specifically my car, the A bodies, or if you just have a lowered rig you're having problems on and getting vibrations at high speeds no matter what you do, it's probably because you lowered it. So either you have to build that into the design when you lower it, if you know that this is going to be higher than this, and make your angles work out despite their height so that you get that low operating angle on the U-joints, or you'll just be replacing U-joints like I do. I've got a drawer full of backups because they just start going bad and they're not wearing right, and you can feel it at 80 miles an hour. It feels like, you know, little midgets are jumping around on your back seat. It's crazy. So if I raise this car, it's going to rotate the engine a little bit because I'm just raising the back. It's probably going to rotate that up a little bit, which is going to put this, basically try to send this in a more downward angle, right? I can't move the position of the rear end because it's locked by the tires here. So its height, face off the tire height, rim sides and all that stuff, this is fixed. This height here is fixed. But if I move the car itself up, like I did here, that's going to rotate the frame and everything else and just like a so on the front suspension. So that should give me more angle. It's going to do this. It's going to make that negative, I'm hoping. So that should bring my drive shaft down here, which should put me not positive. If I'm at 0.0001 negative, that's not positive. My math whiz, I know. But that changes my formulas, right? So I don't have to add these two angles and I don't have to, you know, you get it. Enough talk. Okay, so we've moved the pinion back up to 1.2 positive. Not that it matters to anybody else out there, but that's for my purposes, looking at this video later, that's 7¼ inch. That's the length of the upper bars from where I take my measurements. So that puts me, if you go back to the front here, I'm at 1.8 degrees down or negative. That puts my drive shaft at 6 degrees up, or I'm sorry, 0.6 degrees up, or +6 for that measurement, and a +1.2 or 1.2 up. So since we have a positive measurement here and it's going uphill, that means these numbers are going to add. So I got a 2.4 degree, as you add 0.6 and 1.8, I got a 2.4 degree working angle here, which is a little high, but I have a +1.8 here, so it's pretty close to being equal and opposite, and that gives me an overall working angle for the drive line of, you subtract these two, it's a 0.6. So Tremec says we're green. Boop. Another little fun fact, when you're setting ride height on a coilover car, which this car has coilovers, sway bars bind and they kind of throw your ride heights off. If you ever had your everything hooked up and you try to adjust, you know, the right rear and the left front's doing weird stuff, well, that's probably because the sway bars are connected still. So you have to unload and neutral your suspension. Then you can make your ride height adjustments, bring it back down, settle it, take your measurements. If you saw on the board, I have pre-existing measurements from where I was. I have made some suspension changes since then, so those numbers will get updated. I keep them on the board so I know shock settings, height settings, all that kind of stuff. I can go back to a baseline. So we're going to bring the rear end of this up a little bit and recheck our angles and see where we're at, and hopefully get this pinion angle set correctly. So in raising the rear, that took my pre-existing measurements of 3 degrees down, 1 degree up on the drive line, and 0.5 up on the pinion. And when I did this, that brought me readjusted, so I'm now at 2 degrees down, and I'm at 0.1 degrees down on the drive shaft. So that makes my math flip, which is what we were trying to do. My rear end is now sitting at 0.5 degrees negative. So if I'm doing the subtracting deal, that puts this at a 1.9 degree working angle, which is that under 3, but you really want it close to like ½ degree to agree here, which we can still play with that. But that put me at 1.9 here, and if you subtract these two, it puts me at 0.4 operating angle in the back. So that's pretty close to where acceptable would be. So I plugged this into Tremec and did their measurements, and I went green. My phone did a little bit different than my angle finder. This little guy's magnetic. I use it for a lot of different stuff. It's just a down and dirty. It gives you the angle. You can zero it to whatever your ground level is. I'll put a link to this. I got it on Amazon, and I think I'm within acceptable limits for the pinion angle. So I'm going to lock the coilovers down, take it for a quick drive, make sure that's what I want to do, make sure proof of concept that I'm going down the right road. So let's go down the road. Well, that was simple-ish. A little bit of math, and we figured out the pinion angle was just a little bit off. Now we got it just a little bit on, and close enough for government work. It is green. Still get a little bit of vibe in high speeds, but I guess that means I got to find out what else is wrong besides pinion angle. I'm sure there's something in the driveline that is not happy, or maybe I damaged my U-joint, so I guess we'll check that out also. I've got acceptable working angles for both, equal and opposite, and drive shaft working angles are within spec, so I'm going to call that a win, and we'll see you on the next one. So thanks for watching.
Action. It's fire. I just wake up and piss excellence, and I want to go fast. You're not first, you're last.
Man, I was high when I said that. Did real good. Car ran real good.